What's up, everybody? Rob here. So one of the major issues with combat sports or any kind of sports that involve any type of violent physical contact is the recurrence of head injuries and the neurological problems that this can cause years down the line. I mean, if you look what happened to Muhammad Ali, who died a couple of years ago, the last couple of years of his life, he had major issues with it due to the repeated blows he took. This is true for pretty much any fighter or pretty much anybody in any kind of major contact sport like that. They've run into these problems. And it's becoming now a major issue, especially as we learn more about how the brain works, how brain chemistry works, and the effects of repeated trauma on the head and what that has further on down the line. So many people have speculated, what is the best way to prevent this type of issue with fighters? I mean, you could, I'm just going to focus on combat sports, anything like that. So, like, how could we prevent this from happening? And so a lot of people have speculated, okay, ban blows to the head. I don't think that's really viable, and it just doesn't, it would take away from the sport and just really make it extremely boring. And I mean, it is a combat sport. There is a degree of risk involved. So, okay, you have like banning shots to the head. It's just not going to happen. Let's just be honest with ourselves here. There are different recovery methods, recover different ways, possibly some sort of medication that can be developed, and maybe that can work. But I think the solution is actually way, way simpler. And that is, don't use any kind of hand protection. No gloves, no hand wraps, nothing. Completely bare knuckle. Go back to fighting methods of the 1800s, go back to old school days, and it will actually, in my opinion, be much safer for the fighters than modern day sports. All right, now, if you look at the human hand is designed not for bludgeoning. It's designed for manipulating objects, fine motor control, being able to grasp things, manipulate them in a very delicate, precise manner. They're not designed as, a weapon to be slammed repeatedly into something solid. These little tiny bones here, I think there's like 30 bones in the human hand, somewhere around there, 25, 30 bones. Like, there's a lot of little tiny bones that are going to break very, very easily. There's actually a medical condition called the boxer's fist, or the boxer's hand, boxer's fist, something like that, which basically means breaks along the knuckles or in any of the these tiny bones here, because they're that easy to break. And you now compare that to the human skull, which is pretty solid, and these things are not designed to be bludgeoned into a bowling ball repeatedly, which is exactly what the skull is. Okay, so now you add gloves to the mat, like the big padded boxing gloves, and that protects the hand and the knuckles from damage when you punch something. MMA gloves do the same thing as well. It doesn't provide quite as much protection, but still, it allows the fighter to get these big, massive shots to the head, and do so with much less risk to their hands. The point I'm trying to make is that these are artificial techniques. The human body is not naturally designed to do that. So essentially, by using gloves or even just hand wraps, anything that protects the knuckles like that, what you're doing is you're giving a weapon to somebody. I mean, the whole point of boxing or MMA or whatever it is two people, just their physical forms. There's no weapons, nothing like that. But gloves are, in fact, a weapon, because what a weapon is a device which increases the destructive capability of the human body. It makes a person more destructive than they would be naturally. And that's exactly what you're doing. It allows them to do something that is completely artificial. A big overhand right to someone's, the crown of someone's head is a completely artificial technique. That is a horrible idea if we were, still living in caveman times, or, pretty much any time without, well, they had gloves back in there's cave paintings with not cave paintings, frescoes from Minoan civilizations with guys with boxing gloves wrapped up on them, and they're fighting. But this is pre-civilization times. They wouldn't have gloves or anything like that. So it's an artificial. The point I'm trying to make is that this is an artificial. It's an artificial weapon that you're giving to people to then use to bludgeon themselves with, and that makes it that much more dangerous. So if you go back to the bare-knuckle days before the use of gloves, the London prize fighting rules, before the Marquis of Queensberry rules, which came out in the 1860s, if I'm not mistaken, they really rarely shot to the head. They really, punched someone square in the head. It did happen. It certainly did. But there were a lot more shots to the body, working the body, liver shots. Liver's on the right side, yeah. So I use the left to get someone else's right, but, shots to the body. Shots to the ribs, stuff like that. A lot more grappling, a lot of clinch work, stuff like that. If you were striking to the head, it'd be a quick little jabs, almost like vaguely Wing Chun type. You know, just like quick, not a big, you know, massive strike, which, you know, puts your hand at risk. Especially, you know, in the 1800s, if you break your hand, that's it, you're losing your hand. You know, there's no way you're repairing that. You know, broken bones in general, well, they suck nowadays too, but, you know, with the medical technology at the time, pretty much you're losing the hand. If you don't lose the hand altogether, you're losing all function with it, and you're pretty much done. So you don't want to risk that. So you know, be much more careful and much more judicious with your use of massive strikes to the head. And ultimately, if we were to reinstitute these rules in modern day combat sports, we would see the same results. There would be less people going for shots to the head. You know, the head would be, you know, it'd still be vulnerable. I mean, it depends on what sport. I mean, boxing, if you still want to use just, you know, the only viable strike is with the fist, okay, that might be a bit of an issue. MMA, if, you know, it's still legal now, but with the gloves, it's impractical. But, you know, you can use a palm strike. Yeah, and you can still, you know, make like quick, like Wing Chun style, like, you know, rapid, short range punches to the head. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying all head injuries will be, I mean, you know, you can kick somebody in the head. So, I mean, blows to the head will still happen, but it won't be as common. So, and therefore, because people will be taking less blows to the head, they will ultimately be safer. And I'm saying, when I mean, I'm thinking it's a good idea to introduce bare knuckle, I mean completely bare knuckle. No gloves, no wraps, nothing. Completely bare knuckle. I think make the ruling from the elbow down, there can be no coverings on your arm at all. From, like, you can wear a shirt if you want, or whatever, you can come up with whatever rules, especially like women's MMA, you can have whatever rules you want with, like, as far as clothing goes, but like there will be no covering from the elbow down. Must be completely exposed. And that's your that's the rules. And that would ultimately make things, in my opinion, in the long run, safer for fighters, and it will change up the sport. Now, for the as far as the fans go, it's going to actually, I think, in a way, be a bit more boring. You're going to see, as far as records go, very few KOs, more TKOs. You know, fighters just simply being unable to defend themselves. You know, propped up against the cage. You know, covering up and, you know, getting repeated shots, but not actually being knocked out. So there's going to be fewer KOs, more TKOs. In MMA, more submissions. That's certainly viable. Okay, you know, a lot of grappling stuff like that. I guess for boxing, you would have to allow, since you can't, since the hands are going to be free, you would have to allow a certain degree of grappling, and what's now dirty boxing. You know, get them in the clinch and then work the body. You're going to have to allow that, or you know, make accommodations for that sort of thing. But I think, generally speaking, it might actually be a little bit more boring, but in a way, it's actually more pure in a way. You know, like, this is fighting the way it was meant to be done. It's not like in this artificial thing, this artificial system where people are doing something that their bodies were never designed to do. So yeah, it might be more boring, but I think ultimately, though, it would be benefiting everybody in the long run. And one final point, a lot of people are, when this has come up, they say, oh, this is brutal, this is savage, this is a terrible thing, why are you doing this? I'm going to make it quick because the battery light right here is blinking right now, but I'll try to make this quick. It's savage, it's brutal, it's like how bare knuckle, it's terrible, because that's just due to our modern connotations on these things. The gloves and hand wraps give an illusion of safety when in actuality they're making things much, much worse. So your notions of what is safe, what is civilized, what is savage, what is brutal is a completely artificial construct of people who really just generally don't know any better about how these things work. And the second point along those lines, these critics, is it's a combat sport. It's supposed to be brutal. It's supposed to be savage. That's the point. Like, you're taking humans, and they're using their bones, they're hurling their bones, their muscles at another person, hoping to completely incapacitate that person. They're choking them. They're literally cutting the blood flow from the person's body to their brain with a choke. Okay, with a punch of any kind. They're trying to cause damage, using their bones to damage another person. They're trying to hurt the organs with, like, a liver shot. Okay, like, it's supposed to be brutal. It's supposed to be savage. So when you say that, oh, it's barbaric, yes, it is. Do you know it's called a combat sport for a reason? That's the whole point. So yeah, in short, just a real quick video with this, just something that popped in my mind. I thought about this a little while ago, and I just figured I'd make a video of it. Yeah, want to make boxing, MMA, kickboxing, whatever, want to make combat sports safer? Don't ban blows to the head. Make them, keep them legal. Just, get rid of any artificial incentive to do so. Get rid of the gloves. Get rid of the any kind of hand wraps, anything like that. And yeah, the problem should probably take care of itself. I mean, you're not going to solve all the problems. I mean, unless you ban blows to the head, which would just, that's not going to happen. But ultimately, it's a good idea. All right, so that's it for this video. Please hit the like and subscribe button. More videos of a more extensive nature will be coming out whenever I get around to it. And have a good day, or don't have a good day. You're adults. Have any kind of day you want. See you later.